You're listening to This Week in America with Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. A novel 30 years in the making, that's Legacy. It's a story set in the future of mankind's previous sojourns through this and countless other worlds as experienced by the author, Robert Maxxim, who's back with us on This Week in America. The book describes one man's incredible journey through several lifetimes as far back as 1,000,000 years, his blunders and triumphs, and the many worlds and places where these experiences took place. The book also highlights advanced scientific and spiritual concepts written in lyrical, romantic prose. Robert Maxxim, as I said, back with us on the program, experienced several sleep-time visits to other worlds as a child, witnessed countless alien craft. These visions continue to this date, both wake and sleep states. He studied concert piano starting at age 3, changed his calling to science following his visionary experiences. The Legacy book and series, the culmination of these experiences, shared with the world for the first time. And he's back with us on This Week in America. Robert Maxxim. Robert, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Great to have you back with us.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Glad to be back.
We always get such response when Robert's on the program, and we're going to continue with some questions that we've accumulated over the last couple of times that Robert has been here. I sort of set the stage for what we're going to talk about and your background. Just sort of briefly bring us up to speed on that, because these are visions that started at an early age, started back in, 1973, and actually continue to this day. And Legacy is not some made-up science fiction story. This really is sort of your recollections, your account of actually going on these trips.
Yes, it is. And, just as many individuals have described accounts of visions and sightings, most out of this world and times, I also had the privilege of witnessing alien craft, visited other worlds and other beings, both physical and spiritual, experienced past lives, and learned new scientific principles since I was a child. These events are still taking place, like you mentioned, but now with greater intensity and sensitivity than ever before. One thing that I had to battle was doubt at first. And I still side with tremendous amount of caution, of course. But I did learn over time that vetting these experiences objectively was just as important as questioning the ways of this backward world. Doubt is the lower self resisting change. And here on Earth, we bend over backwards to do its wrongful bidding. But beings of other worlds have overcome that, and for the most part, don't. Now, when you live by the inner still voice, the higher self, there's no doubt, there's no self, because then all virtuous things are added, and therein comes faith.
If you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and go to the YouTube icon there, you'll find the past shows that we've done with Robert. They're also available at iTunes and Google Play, where you can get the full story. One of the things that it's always commented on when Robert is with us on the program, and Robert Maxxim, our guest on the program, Maxxim, author of the Legacy series, we'll give you a website here in a few seconds, is the fact that you viewed this with skepticism. And once you realize this is happening, I have to find a way to deal with it, you went out and went to some of the most brilliant minds, not only in the country, but in the world, to try to confirm what it was that you were experiencing.
And what a surprise it was that things added up. I was not the only individual having these experiences. They checked out. And then my life changed dramatically after that for the better. Discovering the truth really sets you free. And knowing the what, the why, and where I am is, I'm sure, what's foremost in everybody's mind nowadays. I can say that before I was blind, but now I can see just a little bit more. And that to me is exciting and it's life-revealing. I still have a long way to go to be free of the old self, the old past. And all I can say is I've just begun to look at a new positive future, and truth as I never imagined it before.
We have got some questions from viewers and listeners, and if you have further questions for Robert, you can just email. If you go to the website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can send an email directly to us and just put a question for Robert. Before I get to that, let me just ask one more about this process that you've gone through literally for decades. Talk about maturity and how that has changed your view of what you were experiencing and how to sort of like sort through that. As you matured, have these experiences been more rewarding?
More rewarding and more revealing. Best example I can use is when I was a child studying music. The first song I wanted to play was Chopin's E-flat Polonaise. Now, of course, it took me about a good half hour to play 2-3 bars of it. I could barely handle it. But come a couple of years later, some 10, 15 years, I performed it in public. So with time and with learning comes reward. And as with all things, the inner being has to awaken. And for the most part, if you are under the influence of your past and you do not see clearly, the only thing you see around you is this world and nothing else. But as you begin to evolve out of that and begin to learn, take the steps towards positive spiritual connection, guess what? The doors are opened, the windows are open, and all kinds of new information, new life comes in.
We're talking with Robert Maxxim on This Week in America. Maxxim is Maxxim. The book series is called Legacy. It is a little bit of everything that you will find. A lot of it, it's a love story at its root. A lot of it's an excellent book series, and you can find information at the website rgaetan. That's rgaetan.com. You can find it, of course, at Amazon, and you can link on directly to Robert's website by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. In taking questions, we have one from a listener in Santa Clara, California. What have these experiences meant for you, good, bad, and the impact on you and your family?
Well, the entire world is my family. And of course, there's no two individuals that believe or agree in the same concept. So foremost, we must be patient with other individuals, not force our way, but be there to help whenever possible. As for myself, I can't remember who I was. I have changed so much. I was trained as a competitive pianist. I had to be the best. I had to play perfectly. Step over others if necessary. Well, that ended fairly quickly, but I had my challenges to do that. I've had to go through the same thing about my own person, the way that I am with other people. The reason I'm here, why am I here? What am I doing in this short lifetime? What is it that I'm supposed to do? Well, I was not doing the right thing. So the good part of things is that I've learned what life is about, and I'm doing something about it. The bad part was that the bad things I used to be, and still am, are going away, which is perfect.
Yes.
I have two goods where the bad is being turned into a good.
Well, yeah, it's such a fascinating story. Robert Maxxim, our guest on the program, author of the Legacy series, which is basically an accounting of visits that he's had. You mentioned about impact, and the world is basically your family. What is the reaction you get when you meet somebody new that asks you about these experiences? That maybe you begin them in a conversation, or he's heard that what you've gone through. Is there skepticism in the beginning when you talk with people?
I've learned many ways to approach individuals, and of course, younger, I was considered a nutcase. I was isolated, didn't have any friends, because I was like, "Oh, you got to know this. I have to tell you." Well, Wrong approach. Um, you can, what's the old adage? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yes.
So everyone is the same way. So when anybody asks me a question, I first try to vet um, the level of that individual, where he's going with this. And of course, I try not to use conscious mind in what I have to tell this individual, even what I have to say in this interview. I go upstairs. I go to my higher spiritual brothers, which I hope to talk about in a little bit here. They are the ones that I ask for inspiration. What does this person need? What can I say? I personally don't know. And if I make something up, I might be hurting that person. So the wisest thing to do is always check upstairs. Don't do anything for your own glory. What does this individual really need? They're coming to you because there is a connection, maybe a past connection, maybe they're ready for new information. This is part of understanding the science of life. See, the science of life is not just for you. It's your interaction with others as well. You play a part in everyone's lives. And you can either be a star for good or you can be a stump for bad.
So there is a great responsibility, and I would say responsibility with this gift. And that brings up, do you consider this a gift? How do you characterize this?
I'd say that this is the true way of life that we have been, unfortunately, taught to ignore. We have been taught to be selfish, to survive, that this is the only life there is. So people go about living and making life under those rules. And, well, this is what you get. This is the world we've built, and I hope that everybody's happy with it. But I'd say that it has to change. And the biggest change is throw those old concepts away. Throw them out. Cast them out. We need a new set of rules. And that new set of rules will be found in wisdom and knowledge that, I hate to say this, but has been in many ways kept from us.
It's interesting. Robert Maxxim, our guest in the program, that's Maxxim, talking about his series Legacy, which is basically his life, and we're talking about that. And if you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and go to the icon for YouTube, you can go back and watch several programs that we've done with Robert. Another question comes from a listener who is in Boston. What do you see? Can you ask questions? And are you able to interact?
Oh boy, I love that question. I get asked that so often. I guess the best response is that I see what I'm scheduled to see. Life is a preparation. You're prepared to come here. Your mission is to discover things about yourself, so you will know things that you're supposed to know, others that you're not. So, and there we go to the stump or the help to an individual. But we're never alone. The practice I use, which I've evolved into, is I have to be careful. Don't forget, like the cartoons show that you have a little angel on one shoulder and then a little demon on the other, and they're both having at it, That is very true. You have a lower nature to you. I call it the lower self. And that guy is just squawking and squawking and squawking away. It never shuts up. But then there is that inner voice inside, and that's the one you want to listen to. So when you ask questions, who's answering? That's the first concern. So if we have this good voice talking to us all the time, is there really time for questions? The question is already an answer that has been given to you. It's there. You have to tap into it. You see, the lower self asks for selfish reasons all the time. It wants to retaliate, it wants to win, it wants to be somewhat of importance from the past too. It wants to glorify itself, and it wants to strengthen its hold on me. So I have to stop that. That's not why I was born here. These feelings must be carefully vetted for we're here to pacify that lower self. That guy has to be pacified. Pacifier, quiet, not glorify it. The lower self is a student here, and it has no place giving us any advice whatsoever. But I digress. I constantly ask to know myself. What am I supposed to do? And I hope to go into a few details in the future about what I mean by that. But I am an agent for a life force that is much, much greater than I. It's much more infinite than I am.
I believe you've got some pictures. This is why you've got to watch this on YouTube, because you can actually graphically get a grasp on what it is that Robert is talking about.
And if I can interject something, a lot of these things that I don't ask for and I receive is the way that I have to live. But the most precious of them is when you see a vision about the future and, well, you cast it up. Okay, so I saw something good. And then all of a sudden you see it. It happens like, I saw that. I had that dream. Perfect example of that was one time I had never seen Vatican City, and I see St. Peter's Square perfectly, and I see this little chimney, and out of it was coming white smoke, and then just like in a movie, where you get the titles of the movie, yes. Guess what I see? Benedict XVI. Benedict 16. 2 weeks later, I turn on the TV. I see that scene. I see the white smoke coming out, and guess who's selected?
Yep. That is amazing.
Now, there was something else that I saw that I would like to share with you.
You're scaring me with all of this here. This information is like, it's almost sort of hard to take in and try to deal with. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interject there.
No, that's okay.
Just trying to sort everything out that we talk about.
Oh, sure. This is actually from episode number 5, and this I saw when I was 15 years old. Now, to some individuals, they probably already know this information. It's something that will most likely happen within the next 80 years. I didn't ask to see this information, but it was part of my Venus vision. And there was this wonderful brother that stepped up, and he had a book in front of him, and he was flipping pages, and then he stopped on this page, and it's an interesting book because, on these spiritual worlds, things can take whatever shape you conceive. So here was this page that looked more like an iPad, and there was all these energy patterns in 3 dimensions going here and there, and I'm looking at them, just no idea what this means. So he smiles, changes it again, different patterns, and I go, no sabe. So finally, it breaks clear, and what I'm about to show you is precisely what I saw. And it scared, it alerted me.
Yes, yes.
It did frighten me. So much so that I actually went into the picture and saw all of the details that was happening. So I am going to share my screen here.
And again, if you're listening, you can see on YouTube what it is exactly that Robert is talking about. Mm-hmm. Robert Maxxim, our guest on This Week in America, Maxxim. The series we're talking about is Legacy. Information at his website, which is rgaetan, GAETAN.com. Available information at Amazon. Go to our website as well and link on directly.
Okay. Do you see this map?
I see the map.
Okay. This is a map of North America. Now, what I saw in this moving trend was, first of all, the North American continent was going to shift towards the west. In other words, the eastern part was going to rise, the western part was going to drop, and things were going to buckle along the way. So I saw these land masses buckling, going up and down, and this was the first thing I saw. That green patch off the eastern seacoast
Yes.
covers Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, etc. That is a landmass that is supposed to be rising from the sea, added landmass. But here come the bad news. The northeastern seacoast basically disappears.
Wow.
So you have New York, Nova Scotia, Boston, all those big cities,
Yes.
part of New Jersey, they go under. But that's not all. Southern tip of Florida disappears.
When do you see this happening?
It looks like it's going to be happening within maybe the next 80 to 100 years from what I understood. And it will be progressive. It won't take too much time, but it will be progressive. In this particular part, everything up to Houston, good chunk of Louisiana, Alabama, basically go under. Tampico, Mexico, Brownsville, all of that goes under. The Mississippi basin widens tremendously into a huge gulf. Down in Mexico, things don't go well. Yucatan basically goes. Honduras, Nicaragua as well, all the way to the mountain range. But the worst one is this one.
We just lost the West Coast.
Yes. That goes.
And you've got to go to YouTube and see what we're talking about. When you have a vision like this, and time is going, as it always is, I keep saying this, going by way too quickly, and a couple minutes left in the program. When you have a vision like this, what does it do to you, and what do you feel you need to do? Is there anything that you can do? I mean, that's just a portion of what North America is currently.
I've always been very careful, and this is the first time that I have ever discussed this. Basically, I've been concerned with information at the right time. And I came to learn maybe 5-10 years later that Edgar Cayce had made a similar prediction. But I had never seen it for myself. I had seen it 10 years prior. But there's actually more to it. The Bahamas are basically going to rise. And the Lesser Antilles are also going to rise. But west of the West Coast, things get even messier. Hawaii, Japan, eastern coast of China, that all goes.
I'm just trying to take all this in. That is shocking. That is absolutely shocking. How do you deal with it now? And you've had the benefit of some time to sort through all of this, but how do you deal with that? I mean, even as you're looking at that map, newly realigned map, it's stark. How do you sort all that out, make sense of it?
Well,
reconcile yourself with it.
The way I look at it is I am here for a purpose, not to survive. I am here for a purpose to learn and work out my past. I see it as no consequence, although some people would start selling their houses on the West Coast right away.
Exactly.
You know, and trust me, I lived in the West Coast for about, a good 20, 30 years. So it doesn't really concern me as much as what I need to do about myself. If I felt compelled to share this, was more so for a reason of not what's going to happen, but as to what needs to happen with us. Perhaps this is avoidable. Perhaps if we stop blowing up this planet, ruining it, abusing it, trashing it, intoxicating it. And most of all, if we learn to control our emotions and work positively to help the planet, maybe the information will come so that we can save this planet, we can avoid this. That I don't know, but that is what I feel. So that's why my drive is to heal the self. If you can think of a spring. Let me stop sharing this. But if you think of a spring, put a weight on the bottom of the spring, and let it go. It's going to bounce up and down, up and down, up and down. That up and down motion is reincarnation. We go up to the inner, we come back to the physical, up, down, up, down. Every time we go up, we learn something, we bring it down, we express it, experience it. But while we're down here, we sit in temporarily with our lower nature. We have to come down because this is where we incurred these wrongful experiences and pains, and this is where we learn. At the top of the spring is the higher self that's overseeing the whole thing. So we're immersed into this dimension so that we can pacify that lower self, teach it, expand its positiveness, cancel out the negative, and eventually be able to evolve into more spiritual realms.
Well, there is always so much to absorb and to think about, and you might want to play this program back several times so you catch everything that we talk about in the show. Robert Maxxim has been with us on This Week in America. That's Maxxim. We're talking about the Legacy series, which he has written, over 30 years in the making. And you can get that information at Robert's website, which is rgaetan, RGAETAN.com. Information available on the book, of course, at Amazon. You can link on directly to Robert's website by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Robert, it is always a pleasure. Great information there today that's just multiple wows during the course of the program today as we were going through the information. Thank you so much for sharing with us on the program. Look forward to having you back. Thank you for being with us.
Well, sure enough, and I invite everyone to visit unariusunited.com. There they will find a lot of testimonies from other individuals about what I've just discussed, as well as principles as well. So thank you for your time again, Rick.
It is our pleasure, and I will have that information on the other website up on our website as well. Again, Robert Maxxim, information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us.